The Great Hall of Nexus Prime stretched higher than any building on Earth. Crystal walls caught the light from 3 different suns and threw rainbow patterns across the floor. Ambassador Taman walked slowly through the massive doors, his black suit looking small against the huge space. Behind him, Marine Colonel Duwan kept his eyes straight ahead. His uniform crisp and his jaw set tight, they were not alone. Creatures from across the galaxy filled the hall like a nightmare zoo. Some had 6 legs and scales that shifted colors. Others floated in the air with tentacles that never stopped moving. A few looked almost human, but had eyes that glowed like stars. All of them were staring at the 2 humans. Min had been a diplomat for 20 years. He had talked his way out of wars and into peace treaties. But he had never felt so small. The ceiling above them was so high he could not see the top. The other beings were so strange he could not tell which end was their head. And they all seemed to be waiting for something. A voice boomed across the hull. It came from everywhere at once, like thunder rolling through the mountains. The Galactic Council will now hear from Earth. Species designation, human, status, pending membership. Duwan stepped forward. His job was simple. Show the aliens what Earth's military could do. Show them that humans were not weak. He had fought in 3 wars and led men through hell. This should be easy. It was not easy. A creature that looked like a giant praying mantis moved to the center of the hall. Its voice was like breaking glass. I am Kix of the Vorthek Empire. We have studied your world, humans. We have seen your so-called predators. A holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed a lion walking across the African plains. The lion looked magnificent with its golden mane flowing in the wind. Then the image changed to show a great white shark cutting through dark water. Its teeth were like knives and its eyes were black holes. The aliens began to laugh. The sound was horrible. Some laughed like hyenas. Others made sounds like metal scraping against stone. A few just hissed like angry snakes. But they were all laughing at the same thing. They were laughing at Earth's predators. This is what you fear? Kix clicked his mandibles together. This tiny cat, this swimming fish with teeth? The display changed again. Now it showed a grizzly bear standing on its back legs. The bear was huge, easily 8 feet tall. Its claws were longer than kitchen knives. Its roar could be heard for miles. The laughter got louder. Perhaps you should see real predators, said another voice. This one belonged to a creature covered in blue scales. Its name was Vexstar and it spoke for the hegemony of scales. Let us show you what lives on our worlds. The holographic display flickered and changed. Now it showed something that made Duvan's blood run cold. A worm the size of a subway train burst from the ground. Its mouth was a circle of spinning teeth that could chew through metal. Buildings disappeared into its throat like candy. The devourer of worms of Kepler 442b, Vexstar said with pride. They can swallow your entire cities. The image changed again. Now it showed something even worse. A creature that seemed to be made of shadow and lightning. It moved in and out of reality like a ghost. When it struck, entire armies just vanished. Phase hunters, said a third alien. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal. They exist in multiple dimensions. Your bullets would pass right through them. Duvan felt his hands close into fists. He had seen war. He had seen death. But these things were beyond anything he had imagined. Still, he kept his face blank. A Marine never showed fear. The aliens were not done. They showed living storms that could think and plan. They showed plant creatures that could move faster than cars. They showed things with no names because anyone who saw them was already dead. And you bring us lions and bears, Kix said. The mantis creatures seemed to be enjoying this. Tell me, human, do your house cats also make you afraid? More laughter filled the hall. Duwan could feel his anger growing like a fire in his chest. These creatures had never seen a lion hunt. They had never watched a shark attack. They did not understand what made Earth's predators dangerous. Hyjin, the human xenobiologist, stood near the back of the hall. She was small and quiet, but her eyes were sharp. She had studied every predator on Earth and many from other worlds. She knew things that made her valuable to the mission. Right now, she looked ready to explode. She had spent her whole life learning about predators. She knew that a tiger could leap 30 feet. She knew that a wolf pack could take down animals 10 times their size. She knew that humans had learned to hunt alongside these creatures for thousands of years, but the aliens only saw size. They only saw claws and teeth. They did not see intelligence. They did not see cooperation. They did not see the bond between human and animal that had made both species stronger. "Perhaps," said Kix, "we should test these fearsome Earth predators. Let us see how they perform on a real world with real dangers." Vexstar's scales shifted to a deeper blue. "An excellent idea. We propose a simple test. Let the humans survive one rotation on Zarian 7. If they can do this, we will welcome them to the Council." Taemin felt his heart sink. He had heard of Zarian 7. It was a death world where even the ground tried to kill you. The hegemony sent their best warriors there to prove themselves. Most never came back, and if we fail, Taemin asked, then Earth becomes a protected juvenile species, Kix said. We will watch over you like children until you grow up. Perhaps in a few thousand years you will be ready to join the adults. The laughter started again. Duwan could feel every eye in the hall looking at him. They expected him to back down. They expected humans to be afraid. They were wrong. "We accept," Duwan said. His voice cut through the laughter like a blade. The hall went quiet. Even the floating creatures stopped moving. "Excellent," Vexstar said. "But since your predators are so weak, perhaps you should bring some along to help. Bring your house cats and pet dogs. They might provide some amusement before you die." Duwan smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We will bring what we need." As the humans left the great hall, Duwan was already thinking. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought they knew what Earth's predators could do. They thought they understood what made something dangerous. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The private chamber behind the great hall was smaller but no less impressive. Crystal walls showed moving pictures of distant worlds. Some were beautiful with blue oceans and green forests. Others were nightmares of fire and ice. Duwan tried not to look at the ones that showed nothing but bones. Vex-Tar stood in the center of the room. His blue scales had turned darker, almost black. This was not a good sign. Hyjin had studied alien body language and knew that dark scales meant anger or excitement, maybe both. "So the humans think they are brave," Vexstar said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "Let me tell you about Zarian 7, little mammals." The walls around them changed. Now they showed a world that looked like it had been built from nightmares. The sky was the color of old blood. Mountains of black glass reached toward twisted clouds. Between the mountains, forests of crystal trees caught the light and threw it back in sharp daggers. "The atmosphere will burn your lungs if you breathe." "Too much," Vexstar continued. "The temperature changes from freezing to boiling every few hours. The very ground shifts and moves, trying to swallow anything that steps on it." Ambassador So Young had joined them in the chamber. She was Earth's chief diplomat and had spent years preparing for this moment. She had studied every alien species in the Council. She knew their languages, their customs, their weaknesses. But looking at Zarian 7, she felt like a child lost in. "The dark? What about the native life?" she asked. Dupstar's laugh was like breaking bones. "Oh yes, the native life. Let me show you." The walls changed again. A creature appeared that made Duwan's skin crawl. It looked like a spider the size of a car, but its legs were made of metal, and its eyes glowed like hot coals. Worst of all, it was completely invisible except for its outline. "Shriek stalkers," Vexstar said with pride. "They hunt in packs of 50 or more. You cannot see them until they attack. They communicate through sound waves that can shatter rock. Most warriors go mad from the noise before the claws reach them." The image changed to something even worse. What looked like an ancient graveyard suddenly came alive. The bones and stones rose up and formed a massive creature with 100 arms and no face. It moved like liquid death across the landscape. "Bone yards," Vexstar explained. "They pretend to be safe places to rest?" Many travelers have made camp in what they thought was an old battlefield. By morning, they had become part of the creature itself. Duwan watched each horror with the same calm expression. Inside his mind was racing. He had fought in jungle wars where every tree could hide an enemy. He had survived desert battles where the sand itself tried to kill you. But this was different. This was a world designed to murder anything that lived. How long do we have? So Young asked. One rotation of Zarian 7 equals 72 Earth hours, Vexstar said. 3 days and 3 nights. If you survive that long, Earth joins the Council as a full member. All the benefits of galactic civilization will be yours. And if we fail, then Earth becomes our responsibility. We will protect you from the dangerous galaxy until you are ready to protect yourselves. It should only take a few thousand years. The insult was clear. The aliens thought humans were children playing with toys. They thought Earth's entire military was a joke. They thought human technology was barely better than stone knives and wooden clubs. Min-ho, a young Marine who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. He was Duwan's best scout, a soldier who could move through enemy territory like a ghost. His specialty was working with animals. He had trained military dogs and even worked with dolphins for underwater missions. Sir, Minho said quietly too. Duwan, what if we brought some friends? Duwan looked at the young Marine. There was something in his eyes, a spark of an idea that made the colonel's heart beat faster. What kind of friends? Duwan asked. The kind that bite back, Minho replied. Vexstar had been listening to their whispered conversation. His scales shifted to a lighter blue, which Hyjin recognized as amusement. Oh, please, Vexstar said, do bring your Earth animals. I am sure your house cats will provide some entertainment before they become food for the Shriek Stalkers. More aliens had entered the chamber. Kix clicked his mandibles together in what passed for laughter among his species. A floating jellyfish creature bobbed up and down in what might have been joy. They all seemed to think the idea of humans bringing animals to Zarian 7 was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Your pet dogs might last an hour, said one alien. That looked like a walking tree made of metal. Your horses might survive until the first boneyard finds them. But tell me, humans, what happens when your little animal friends run away and leave you alone? Duwan felt his anger growing again. These creatures had never seen what humans and animals could do together. They had never watched a cavalry charge or seen a police dog take down an armed criminal. They thought partnership was the same as slavery. Animals don't run from us, Duwan said quietly. They run with us? The aliens laughed harder. Even So Young looked worried. She pulled Duwan aside and whispered urgently in his ear. Colonel, I know you're angry, but we need to be realistic. We can't take Earth animals to an alien death world. They'll die in the first hour. Duwan looked at her with eyes that had seen too much war. Ma'am, with respect, you don't know what we're capable of. None of these aliens do. They think they understand predators because they've seen big monsters with sharp teeth. They don't understand what makes something truly dangerous. What's that? So Young asked. Intelligence, Duwan said. And the will to use it. Vexstar clapped his scaled hands together. Wonderful, so it is agreed. The humans will go to Zarian 7 with whatever Earth creatures they choose. We will monitor everything, of course. When you fail, the recordings will be quite educational for other young species. When do we leave? Duwan asked. You have 7 Earth days to prepare, Vexstar replied. Gather your pets. Pack your toys. Practice your prayers. In 1 week, you will learn what real predators can do. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, Duwan turned to his team. So Young still looked worried. Hyjin was taking notes on everything she had seen. Minho was smiling like he knew a secret. Sir, Minho said, I think it's time we showed them what happens when you give intelligence to something that already knows how to kill, Duwan nodded. He was thinking about a classified facility back on Earth, a place where scientists and soldiers had been working on something that would change everything. The aliens thought they were sending humans to die. On a death world, they were actually sending them home to get ready for war. The transport ship dropped through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star. Duwan pressed his face to the small window and watched his home planet grow larger. After the crystal cities and impossible architecture of Nexus Prime, Earth looked simple and beautiful. Green forests, blue oceans, and white clouds swirled below him like a painting, but Duwan was not coming home to rest. He was coming home to prepare for war. The ship landed at a military base in South Korea. The moment Duwan stepped onto the concrete runway, he felt better. This was his world. This was where humans belonged. Here, he was not a small creature being laughed at by aliens. Here, he was a Marine colonel with a job to do. A jeep was waiting for him. The driver was a young soldier who saluted sharply as Duwan approached. "Sir, Dr. Yujin is waiting for you at the facility," the soldier said. Duwan nodded and climbed into the jeep. As they drove through the Korean countryside, he thought about what lay ahead. The aliens expected him to bring ordinary animals to Zarian 7. They expected those animals to die quickly and horribly. They expected humans to fail. They were going to be very surprised. The jeep turned off the main road and drove through a forest of pine trees. The road got narrower and more winding. After 20 minutes, they came to a gate with guards and warning signs. The signs were in Korean, English, and several other languages. They all said the same thing: authorized personnel only, deadly force authorized. The guards checked Duwan's identification 3 times before letting them through. Beyond the gate, the road led to a building that looked like a normal research facility. It had white walls, lots of windows, and solar panels on the roof. It looked peaceful and harmless. Duwan knew better. Dr. Yujin was waiting in the main lobby. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes behind thick glasses. She wore a white lab coat that had seen better days. When she saw Duwan, she smiled like a grandmother greeting her favorite grandson. "Colonel," she said in perfect English, "welcome to Project Genesis." She led him through corridors that looked like any other research building. Scientists in lab coats walked back and forth, carrying tablets and talking in low voices. Everything seemed normal until Duwan noticed the doors. They were not ordinary doors. They were thick metal barriers that looked like they belonged on a bank vault. "Security is very important here," Dr. Yujin explained. "What we do in this facility must remain secret until the world is ready." They stopped at an elevator that required 3 different key cards to operate. As they descended, Duwan felt his ears pop from the pressure change. They were going deep underground. "How deep?" he asked. 200 meters, Dr. Yujin replied. "Deep enough to contain anything that might go wrong." The elevator doors opened onto a corridor that was completely different from the floors above. The walls were white metal with no decorations. The lights were bright and harsh. The air smelled like disinfectant and something else. Something wild. "What exactly is Project Genesis?" Duwan asked as they walked. Dr. Yujin stopped at a thick window that looked into a large room. The room was designed to look like a forest, complete with trees, rocks, and a small stream. But it was the creature in the center of the room that made Duwan's breath catch in his throat. It was a tiger. But not just any tiger. The animal was huge, easily twice the size of any tiger Duwan had ever seen. Its muscles rippled under fur that was pure white with black stripes. Its eyes were not the normal yellow of a tiger. They were blue, and there was something in those eyes that looked almost human. "Meet Biko," Dr. Yujin said with pride in her voice. "He is the result of 15 years of genetic enhancement and behavioral modification." "Enhancement?" Duwan asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. "We started with the best specimens we could find," Dr. Yujin explained. "Siberian tigers, the largest and strongest of all the big cats. Then we enhanced their muscle density, their bone strength, their reflexes. We improved their healing ability and their resistance to disease." She pressed a button on the wall. The tiger's head turned toward the window. When it saw them, it stood and walked over. Up close, Duwan could see that the animal was even more impressive. It was 400 pounds of perfect predator. But the real breakthrough, Dr. Eugene continued, was the neural interface. Neural interface. A direct connection between human and tiger minds. Not control, you understand, partnership. The tiger keeps its instincts and intelligence. The human keeps their tactical thinking and planning ability. Together they become something greater than either could be alone. Duwan stared at the tiger. Biko stared back. For a moment he felt like the animal was looking into his soul. How many do you have? Duwan asked. 12 breeding pairs. Dr. Eugene replied, 24 enhanced tigers total. All of them trained from birth to work with human partners. All of them smarter than normal tigers and loyal beyond death. They walked to another window. This room held a different tiger, orange and black with scars across its face. The animal was pacing back and forth like a caged storm. Haniel, doctor. Eugene said, he is more aggressive than Biko. Less patient, but in combat there is no better partner. Combat? Duwan asked. Colonel, these tigers were designed for war. They can track enemies across any terrain. They can kill silently or fight in open battle. They can work alone or coordinate with human soldiers. They are the perfect military companions. Duwan thought about the aliens and their mockery. They had laughed at Earth's predators. They thought tigers were just big house cats. They had no idea what human science and determination could create. Can they survive on Zarian 7? He asked. Dr. Eugene smiled. Colonel, these tigers can survive anywhere. The real question is whether Zarian 7 can survive them. She led him to a training room where human soldiers were working with their tiger partners. Duwan watched as a Marine named J1 moved through an obstacle course with his tiger beside him. The two moved like they were reading each other's minds. When the Marine went left, the tiger went right. When the tiger crouched, the Marine took cover. They were not human and animal. They were a team. The neural interface allows perfect communication. Dr. Eugene explained, no words are needed. Each knows what the other is thinking. Each can feel what the other feels. In combat against the Shriek Stalkers, this will be invaluable. Duwan watched as more teams ran through combat scenarios. Humans provided strategy and planning. Tigers provided strength and instinct. Together, they solved problems that neither could handle alone. How long to prepare a team? Duwan asked. For someone with your experience? 3 days of intensive. Training should be enough to establish the neural link. The tigers are already trained. They just need to bond with their human partners. Duwan looked at Biko through the window. The white tiger looked back. Something passed between them, a recognition that both were warriors. When do we start? Duwan asked. Dr. Eugene checked her watch. Right now, Colonel. Zarian 7 is waiting and we have work to do. The transport ship shuddered as it entered Zarian 7's atmosphere. Duwan felt his stomach drop as they passed through layers of toxic clouds. Through the small porthole, he could see the nightmare landscape below. Everything was the color of dried blood and broken glass. Beside him, Biko lay calmly on the metal floor. The white tiger's breathing was steady and slow. Through their neural link, Duwan could feel the animal's confidence. Biko was not afraid. Tigers did not know fear the way humans did. They only knew the hunt. 3 other human tiger teams filled the transport. J1 sat with his partner Haniel, the scarred orange tiger. Subin, a tough female Marine, had bonded with Gangsan, a massive black tiger with yellow eyes. Minho, the young scout who had first suggested bringing friends, was paired with Nuri, a smaller but incredibly fast tiger with silver fur. 30 seconds to drop, announced the pilot's voice over the intercom. Duwan checked his equipment. One final time. He carried a rifle designed for alien combat, ammunition that could pierce the hardest armor, and enough supplies to last 3 days. But his most important weapon lay beside him, ready to leap into hell itself. The ship's doors opened. Wind that smelled like sulfur and death rushed in. Duwan could see the drop zones marked by glowing beacons. 4 different locations, each one designed to test them in a different way. Remember, Duwan shouted over the wind, we are not just surviving, we are hunting. Show these aliens what Earth predators can really do. One by one, the teams jumped. Duhan felt the rush of falling through poisonous air. Biko fell beside him, his white fur streaming in the wind. The tiger's eyes were bright with excitement. This was what he had been born for. They landed in what the aliens called the Crystal Forest. Trees made of razor-sharp glass stretched toward the bloody sky. Every step created musical notes as boots crushed smaller crystals underfoot. The sound was beautiful and deadly. It would attract every predator for miles around. Duan and Biko moved deeper into the forest. Through their neural link, the Marine could feel what the tiger sensed. Enhanced hearing picked up sounds too quiet for human ears. A nose 50 times more sensitive than a human sorted through the chemical messages in the air. Something was watching them. Biko froze. His muscles tensed like loaded springs. Duan felt the tiger's hunting instincts flood through their shared connection. Somewhere in the crystal trees, invisible death was moving closer. The shriek stalkers attacked without warning. The first sound was like glass breaking inside Duan's skull. The alien creature's communication method was designed to paralyze prey with pain. Most victims went insane from the noise before the claws found them, but Duan and Biko were not most victims. The Marine rolled left as invisible claws raked the air where his head had been. Biko leaped right, his enhanced senses tracking the creature that human eyes could not see. The tiger's roar shook crystal branches and sent rainbow fragments falling like deadly snow. Duan fired his rifle at empty air, using Biko's senses to guide his aim. The bullets found their target. Something screamed and became visible as it died. The shriek stalker looked exactly like the Hollas had shown, a spider made of nightmares with metal legs and glowing eyes. But there were more. Always more. The pack attacked from all sides. Their shrieking filled the air with sonic knives that cut through thought itself. Duan felt blood running from his ears. But through the neural link he could feel Biko's calm focus. The tiger was not bothered by sounds. He hunted by scent and movement and the electric taste of fear in the air. Together, they became something the shriek stalkers had never faced. Human intelligence guided by predator instinct. Tactical thinking enhanced by hunting reflexes. They did not just fight the pack. They outmaneuvered it. Duan used his rifle to drive the creatures toward Biko's claws. The tiger used his strength to throw enemies into Duan's line of fire. They moved like dancers in a deadly ballet, each knowing exactly where the other would be. When the last shriek stalker fell, silence returned to the crystal forest. Duan wiped blood from his ears and checked his ammunition. Biko licked clean claws and scanned for new threats, high above in orbit. Alien observers watched through hidden cameras. They had been expecting to see humans running in terror. Instead, they saw something that made their own blood run cold. They saw perfect hunters doing what they were born to do. Elsewhere on Zarian 7, the other teams were having their own encounters. Subin and Gansan found themselves in the shifting sands, where the ground itself tried to swallow them. The black tiger's enhanced strength let him leap between safe spots, while Subin used her tactical training to map the stable ground. When the sandworms attacked, creatures like living earthquakes with mouths full of grinding teeth, the human tiger team turned the desert's own weapons against it. Subin planted explosives in the sand, while Gansan lured the worms into position. The controlled detonations collapsed the creatures' tunnels and buried them in their own hunting ground. Minho and Nuri were dropped in the bone fields, where the fake graveyards waited to consume the living. The young scout's training in stealth warfare combined perfectly with his tiger partner's silent movement. They did not just avoid the boneyard creatures. They stalked them. Nuri's speed let her strike and retreat before the collective organisms could react. Minho's knowledge of explosives let him plant charges in the creature's core structures. When the bombs went off, entire fake graveyards crumbled to dust. J1 and Haniel faced the worst challenge of all. They were dropped into the screaming peaks, where the wind itself carried madness. The mountains were home to creatures that fed on fear and despair. Most visitors lost their minds before the monsters ever found them, but Haniel had already survived worse. The scars on his face were from battles that would have broken lesser tigers. His partnership with J1 was forged in shared violence and mutual respect. When the fear feeders came for them, floating nightmares that attacked through dreams and terror, they found prey that refused to be afraid. J1's military discipline kept his mind clear, while Haniel's predator confidence gave him strength. The tiger did not understand fear the way humans did. To him, everything was either prey or something to be avoided. The fear feeders were just another kind of prey. As the first day on Zarian 7 ended, all 4 human tiger teams were still alive. More than alive. They were thriving. In orbit. The alien observers were no longer laughing. They were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. These were not house cats and pet dogs. These were apex predators enhanced by science and bonded to the most dangerous species in the galaxy. These were Earth's true hunters, and they had come to show the galaxy what real predators could do. The second day on Zarian 7 brought new horrors but also new understanding. In the observation ship high above the Death World, the alien watchers sat in stunned silence. Their instruments showed impossible readings. The humans were not just surviving, they were winning. Kix clicked his mandibles nervously as he watched the feeds. His compound eyes could see in multiple spectrums, but what he was seeing made no sense. The human tiger teams moved through Zarian 7 like they owned it. They did not run from predators, they hunted them. This cannot be correct, Kix muttered to himself. The readings must be wrong, but the readings were not wrong. On the surface of the Death World, Duwan and Biko had found something that even the aliens feared to approach. The phase hunters had emerged from their dimensional hiding places. The phase hunters were creatures of living shadow and twisted space. They existed partially in normal reality and partially in other dimensions. When they attacked, they could reach through solid matter like it was air. Their claws could cut through the strongest armor by attacking from angles that did not exist. Most warriors who faced phase hunters died without ever seeing their killers. The creatures would strike from impossible directions, appearing inside armor or reaching through shields to tear out hearts and brains, but Duwan and Biko were not most warriors. The white tiger's enhanced senses could detect the dimensional distortions that the phase hunters created. Through their neural link, Biko shared this information with Duwan. The Marine's tactical mind processed the data and found patterns in the chaos. The phase hunters were not truly invisible. They were displaced, existing slightly to the left or right of where they appeared to be. Once Duwan understood this, he could predict their attacks. Left shoulder 3 inches forward, Duwan whispered to himself as he aimed his rifle. He fired at empty air. The bullet found something solid. A phase hunter screamed as it was forced back into normal space, its shadow form suddenly becoming flesh and blood. Biko was already moving, 400 pounds of enhanced muscle and razor claws. The tigers. Strike removed the creature's head before it could phase away again. More phase hunters materialized around them. These were the apex predators of Zarian 7, the creatures that even other monsters feared. They had never been successfully hunted by any species. Until now. Duwan and Biko fought like they were reading each other's mind because they were. The neural interface let them share thoughts, instincts, and reactions in real time. When Duwan saw a threat, Biko felt it. When the tiger sensed danger, the Marine knew exactly where to look. They were not human and animal fighting together. They were a new kind of creature entirely. A fusion of human intelligence and predator, instinct that neither alien science nor evolution had ever produced. The phase hunters began to retreat. For the first time in their species' history, they were afraid. High above, Vexstar watched the battle with growing horror. His blue scales had turned almost white, a color that meant fear among his people. He had sent thousands of warriors to Zarian 7 over the centuries. Most had died within hours. The survivors came back broken and mad, speaking of nightmares that hunted in the spaces between reality. But these humans were not just surviving the phase hunters. They were destroying them. How was this possible? Vexstar whispered to beside him. A floating jellyfish creature named Drix pulsed with confused bioluminescence. Their predators are too small, Drix said in a voice like singing crystals. Tigers weigh less than our hunting beasts. They should not be able to fight phase hunters. Size is not everything, said a new voice. The aliens turned to see Hyjin floating beside their observation post. The human xenobiologist had been monitoring the feeds from her own ship. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with satisfaction. You made a mistake, Hyjin continued. You thought bigger meant more dangerous. You thought claws and teeth were what made a predator. You were wrong. Explain, Vexstar demanded. Intelligence, Hyjin said. The ability to adapt, the willingness to work together. Those are what make Earth's predators dangerous. A tiger alone is just a big cat. A human alone is just clever prey. But together they become something that can hunt anything in the galaxy. She gestured to the screens showing the battle. Duwan and Biko had finished with the phase hunters and were moving deeper into the death. World's most dangerous regions. Your phase hunters are impressive, Hyjin admitted. But they hunt by instinct. They follow patterns that millions of years of evolution have burned into their brains. Patterns that human intelligence can recognize and counter. On another screen, Subin and Gangsan were facing the Void Leviathan, a creature so dangerous that even the hegemony's best warriors refused to hunt it. The monster was the size of a building and existed partially outside normal spacetime. Its very presence warped reality around it, but the human tiger team was not trying to fight it head-on. Instead, they were using its own dimensional abilities against it. Subin had studied the creature's movement patterns and found a weakness. The Leviathan had to fully materialize to attack. For just a few seconds, it became vulnerable. Gangsan waited with the patience of a true predator. When the moment came, the black tiger struck with surgical precision. His enhanced claws found the exact spot where the creature's dimensional anchor was weakest. The Void Leviathan screamed as it was torn from its dimensional hiding place and forced into normal space where it could be killed. Impossible, Kix whispered. The Void Leviathan has terrorized this world for 10,000 years. Had, Hyjin corrected. Past tense? The third screen showed Minho and Nuri dealing with the Thought Weavers, creatures that attacked through telepathic manipulation. They drove their victims insane by forcing them to experience their own worst memories over and over again. But the neural link between human and tiger created an unexpected defense. The Thought Weavers could not penetrate the shared consciousness. When they tried to attack Minho's mind, they encountered Nuri's predator instincts. When they targeted the tiger, they hit human tactical thinking. The combined mental structure was too alien for them to understand or manipulate. The Thought Weavers fled in confusion, leaving Minho and Nuri free to hunt other prey. You see, Hyjin explained to the stunned aliens, you thought you understood predators because you had seen big monsters with sharp teeth. But you never understood what made them truly dangerous. It is not size or strength or exotic abilities. It is the willingness to adapt, to learn, to become something new. On the final screen, J1 and Haniel were approaching the heart of Zarian 7, where the most dangerous creatures made their home. But they were not approaching as prey seeking to hide. They were approaching as hunters seeking new challenges. Vexstar felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his long life, he was afraid of creatures smaller than himself. These humans and their enhanced tigers were not just surviving on the most dangerous world in known space, they were transforming it into their hunting ground. What have we done? Vexstar whispered. Hyjin smiled. It was not a nice smile. You challenged Earth's predators, she said. Now you get to see what that really means. Below on Zarian 7, the hunt continued. And for the first time in the planet's history, the native monsters were the ones being hunted.